Okay, so just as a review, when you walk up to a cutting board, you want to your hands come together and you have a V. And so obviously your knife should be pointing off this way and your food should be pointing off the other way. I think I told you this yesterday when there are 3 non-dominant hand holds. So there is what I call the 70s Kung Fu grip or the bear claw. There is the bird beak, which is used for mincing. And then you can also put things in the tunnel. And I'm going to demonstrate all of them right now. I hold my knife like Josh Weissman, so I pinch it. And then I grab here. I have seen some people grab it like this, but you really have less control. If you pinch it, it just works a lot better. And also don't slam it on the cutting board. Practice just like this at first. Once you start getting some speed, halfway through the year, towards the end of the year, I'll show you other ways to do cut with a knife, okay? So let's just, the steel. If you wanna use the steel, it's fine. I would suggest holding it like this, and then you wanna do 15 to 18 degrees, and just like that one video we watched, you want it to make this noise. Now, some people hate this noise. I'm sorry if you hate the noise. But if it's not making the noise, it probably is not doing what it's supposed to do. Okay, so let's talk about onions. So this is an onion. You can tell the bottom from the top because the bottom has these little hairs on the bottom, and then the top, this is what grows out of the ground and sprouts. And so look, you have to ask yourself, am I making julienne, bottinettes, or something like that, like a stick of onion? If not, then you don't cut off the core. The bottom, that holds it all together. It's like the force. It surrounds it, it binds it, it holds the onion together. I'll stop now. Okay, so first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna cut the top off, and this is where I'm using my bear claw. Notice the direction of my knife. Also notice that I didn't just push through it. If you hear a knife hit the board like that, then you're probably cutting down. And I always start at the tip and go to the heel, or start at the heel and go to the tip. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it on its top. I'm going to use my tunnel. I'm gonna start at the tip of the knife and I'm gonna cut through the core. You're not allowed to cut the core off, but you can cut through the core. And you know you did it correctly because you can see the core at the bottom. Also, if you notice, when I'm not using my knife, the knife stays in the side of the cutting board, and that's because there's a lot of people in this kitchen, and the last thing I want is someone turning around and cutting themselves on a knife. Okay, at this point is when you actually peel the onion, because you actually have a corner to peel it. So I'm gonna peel this off, and this is why I have my trash can, my mirepoix can, and that looks pretty good. And then I also want you to clear it off like this. Because, and this is, some people are gonna do it in here, you're gonna forget to do this. No one wants to eat those scraps, right? So let's not get them in our food. So even this one right here, I'm just gonna take that off. Okay, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna bring it to the front of the board. If you are ever trying to cut something like this, and that's taking the skin off off a fish, or cutting an onion like I am, the best thing that you can do is bring it to the front of the board, because your knuckles are gonna hit the board. So if I bring it here, my knuckles are off the board, right? I'm gonna take my hand like this, and then I'm gonna cut this way. Now I'm gonna press down just enough to keep the onion from moving, but not enough to push down on the blade. I'm gonna start at the tip of the knife, and actually, let me tell you what I'm gonna do. So I have my sheet here of what I am going to cut. So I am going to do medium bottinettes into medium dice. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is, I am going to do the medium size. And so all I'm gonna do is put my hand here, and I'm gonna raise my knife. I'm gonna start at the tip, about that space from the onion, and then I am going to slice in and out. Notice how I'm slicing slowly, right? I'm giving it if you just try and cut through, it's not gonna work. It's just like going up and down with a knife. It doesn't wanna do that. It wants to go forward and back. And then I go the same distance above that one, and I'm gonna cut again. And then I'm gonna go to the same distance above that, and I'm gonna cut one more time. And I am not cutting all the way through. I'm cutting like 90% of the way through. So now what I'm gonna do is, now that I have it cut to the right size, I'm going to face it off towards 10 o'clock, and I'm going to cut it the same distance this way, but not all the way through again, only 90% of the way through. Notice my bear claw. And a couple pieces might come out, that's fine. And then I'm gonna turn it 45 degrees. My knife is still going in the same direction. And then same distance, I'm gonna start at the tip, and I'm just gonna push through. Notice how it's not slamming against the board. If I went straight down, like it's harder to get through. And then once you get to this back here, you can just like, and then you can cut that as well if you want. I mean, that's not necessary, and that's scrap. But there it is. That it is and if it didn't get all the way through, you can cut it a little bit more, like this one right here. We'll just cut that, and this one. But that is a nice medium dice of onion. I'm done with my knife. I'll put it back in the side, and I will put it over here on the cutting board. And I will clear off my cutting board. I have not broken them out yet because it's still the beginning of the year, but I like to use a bowl scraper. It helps bring things up off the cutting board without using my knife. You should not be like scraping with your knife. I've seen people cut the sides of their hand, okay? Second, carrot. If it is something round, like an apple, I will peel it coming towards me with my thumb behind. It's just the easiest, fastest way to do it. It might be awkward at first. If it is a carrot or something long, I peel away from me. Questions so far? Okay. Take that, put that in our scraps. Fun fact, if you add too much carrot to your stock or your soup, it's going to make it too sweet because there is a ton of sugar in carrots. We're gonna cut the ends off. And when you cut through, notice how it didn't make any noise. If I push through, that's how you know that you're not pushing forward or pushing back. And a lot of times, if your knife is a little dull, it's going to go to one side or the other. So you wanna like push through or push back. We're gonna cut it down in 2 to 3 inch pieces. So I'm gonna cut it here, and I'm gonna cut it here. And then we're gonna square it off. So all that I'm going to do is I'm going to find the flattest side that it wants to sit on. And then I'm just going to notice how I'm cutting back and forth. I'm gonna flip it onto its flat side. Flip it. Flip it. And there you go. And now we'll cut this one into medium sticks. And so I'm gonna get 3 out of this. And so you can even mark it before you cut it, so you can see how many you're gonna get out of it, and then hold it up to your sheet and be like, yeah, that's about right. So we squared it off. Now we're doing planks. 1, 2, so we have 3 planks. And then the other way, I'm gonna just cut it in half. I mean, I might be able to get 3 out of it. It might be a little small, so I'm gonna just do that one in half. Now, if I did it into thirds, I would probably have small. So you can see the difference between like medium and small bottonettes, right? Now, if I wanted like julienne, I could cut this one in half, and it might be a little big for julienne, but then you have julienne. So there you have 3 different sizes, right? And then if you want to make dice out of it, if I want to make small dice out of my small bottonettes, I literally just cut them into cubes. Now, a lot of people, they start doing this. And you know, it looks really good that way, but it's way too thin this way. That's not a good cut. You want it to be the same on all sides, especially if you're gonna do competitions next year. So there we go. And then this one, so now we have, and to get a little extra, small, medium, and large. And does anybody remember what you get if you cut julienne? Brunoise. And it's spelled Brunoise, so B-R-U-N-O-I-S-E. And so all I'm gonna do, and if holding this many together at one time is too much, then do less. You need to start slowly. You need to make sure that you're using good technique. Good technique will lead to speed. Speed and accuracy is what we want. So notice how I'm using my bird beak now. I'm gonna hold all these together. I'm gonna use the front of my fingers. Also, I don't really mind that carrots stick to the knife because it helps me line up the next ones I'm going to cut, okay? So there, you got a couple little examples. Also, what I like to do is when you're practicing this next week and you have all these sides that you shaved off, I want you to practice julienning these. Because this will help give you speed and accuracy. And they might be rounded because they're not, obviously they're the edges, but just practicing this on them will give you the same feeling of doing julienne. Rounds. Are you ready for this? It's gonna blow your mind. About 1/4 of an inch thick. There you go. It's a round, or rondelle. It's the same thing. But you want it about 1/4 of an inch thick. And a lot of people use the reference poker chip because that's really about the thickness of it, okay? Then there is diagonal. A lot of people will do like a 45 degree. Sometimes 45 degree isn't enough. So if you do a 45 degree and about the same, it should be about 1/4 of an inch. I mean, it's okay looking, but I feel like a deeper one, like more of an angle, actually looks better. It's personal preference. It's whatever your chef tells you to do. And then there's the roll cut, which you're only gonna probably do in competition. 45 degree, roll it over, 45 degree, roll it over, 45 degree, roll it over. And this is for more of like a braise. Like if you're gonna do like ossobuco or I don't know, some kind of like pot roast, like hearty kind of meat dish, this would take a long time to cook and be really good. Or you do a tournée. So what we're gonna do is, just like anything else long, we're gonna cut it down into 2, because if you try and cut the whole thing straight, it's just gonna be all wonky and not a straight line. So if we wanna do like medium bottinettes, I'm gonna cut this into 3rds, because remember your goal, I'm just gonna cut this edge off. So like your goal is to take something that is not square and make it into a square, right? So like there you go, you got medium bottinettes. And if you want medium dice, there you go. And that's a good medium dice. Now obviously celery is only so thick, so it's only gonna be so tall, but the outside shape should be somewhat accurate. Now if you wanted to make small, you would just cut it obviously smaller. So start on one side of the celery stalk, and you're gonna just work your way around. And there you go. This one's a little big, trim it down a little bit, just trim the edge just off of it. Looks great. And then you cut it down. There you go. Nice small dice.